VU Sports Wired, your new home for all things Vanderbilt sports. I'm Adam Weinstein.
And I'm David Nam. In addition to the cross-country and soccer coverage we have coming your way this week, let's start with our top story, Vanderbilt's win over South Carolina. Weinstein, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts? All good thoughts right now. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, I was in the press box. I wish I could have been down there in the student section cheering them on. I've never seen anything like it. The atmosphere there, it wasn't a complete blackout, but you could definitely tell that the spirit was there.
Oh, I heard that we looked riled up on ESPN, which is always a positive thing to have that positive national image going for us and our football team. But also the thing that struck me the most was how great our running game was. I've always been a fan of establishing the run game and stopping the run. That's the way that you win championships and you win big games. It's exactly what Vanderbilt did this past week.
Right, and we looked really gritty out there because let's face it, the first half was not our finest hour. I mean, it didn't look good starting off with that option gone wrong to Gaston Miller. He got clocked. I mean, no other way to put it. And, going to the half, it didn't look so promising, but we really got out there in the second half, didn't we?
We really did, and our secondary really stepped up. You know, we talk a lot about DJ Moore in the show, but also Rashard Langford, didn't he step up and make some big plays? Where would our secondary be without his leadership?
Definitely, and Greg Billinger, boy, that guy was... he was on fire. 2 sacks, and he blocked the field goal that really changed the outcome of the game. He was all over the place. You can't say enough. It was really a well-rounded team effort.
It's nice to see John Stokes get in there on that recovery. I'll see Patrick Benoit step up. It wasn't just one hero, but if you have to look at someone who's really changed the direction of the season for us, it's Chris Nixon. 2 weeks ago, we weren't necessarily sure what direction we were going in terms of leadership of this team, but Chris Nixon really has given us a sense of direction, a sense of purpose.
Definitely, and one thing that he also brought to the table, and I don't even know if it was just him, but the one thing that we saw this week that we didn't see last year in the Georgia game or on the road at the Tennessee game was that big killer instinct down the stretch. We had that lead. Granted, we gave up that touchdown, but we bended, but we didn't break.
And I think it was kind of like the Vanderbilt brand of smash mouth football, which is where you have to give a shout out to the offensive line. Last week we said, you have to improve over that showing against Miami, Ohio, and that's exactly what they did. They opened some great holes for Jared Hawkins, who the redshirt junior ran through and had some really powerful runs, statement-making runs to the rest of the SEC. That's some big-time stuff right there.
Definitely, and I don't know what else you can say about just the special teams. Granted, there was the kick. The field goal block, but there was also the kick that bounced off. There was some serendipity involved in that, but really, we played a very well-rounded game. It wasn't just, a running game. It wasn't just a defense. It wasn't just, one of those plays. The whole team played well together and really fed off that energy.
The two most talked about faces of the game are offense and defense, but there are 3 faces of football, and one of them is special teams. We were able to capitalize on some of the mistakes of South Carolina. I don't necessarily say laziness on their part, but they weren't as astute as we were, and we were able to jump on those opportunities.
Definitely. We really were. We were the better team, and it really showed.
Oh, we definitely were.
Definitely. And so we're not done covering this, guys. We're going to come back later. David Rutz from the Vanderbilt Hustler will be joining us. Stick around. Big win against South Carolina. We've already kind of recapped the action, but what does this mean going forward for the teams? Because honestly, I don't think they've had a bigger win at home, since 1992.
This win is huge. They've been saying it for so long. Vanderbilt's gotten some big wins out of Nashville, against Georgia, against Tennessee, against South Carolina, but it seemed whenever they got to Nashville, they could never get over that hump. And finally getting that win over, which I think is an actually pretty mediocre South Carolina team, but still, ranked, Steve Spurrier, 2-0, 1-0 in the SEC. It's huge. It's huge for the program.
one of the biggest statements I think that we sent too was we have our leader. 2 weeks ago we couldn't have necessarily said that, but with Chris Nixon leading our team, the empowered running game, we looked like a threat to force to be reckoned with.
And I mean, on top of that, now that we've got that one win, I mean, I think that might have been one of our first wins on ESPN outside of their ESPNU station. I mean, we're getting some national recognition right now. I don't know if you guys seen the AP poll that came out today, and we're not ranked, but for the first time in a long time, I think we picked up 7 votes today, which is not too shabby for this kind of an organization. I mean, what do you think? Does this up the ante going forward?
It's exactly the terminology that Bobby Johnson used after the game. He said they've got a responsibility now. I mean, they're 2-0, and it's like that doesn't mean anything right now. All it means is they've got the correct start to get up to a bowl eligibility for once. And what I think was huge about that game was it wasn't just like one unit performed better than anyone else. I mean, the offense was poor in the first half, but the defense picked up the slack. Then the second half, big special teams play. Greg Billinger blocks that field goal, and the offense wakes up. Jared Hawkins showed that he's the man for our team. You know, he wanted the load in the fourth quarter, and he took it, and he ran out that clock. Vanderbilt closed out a win in style. And I think at ESPN, everyone watching saw a team that is tired of being picked on.
And they saw a team too that's ready to take that next step. And we're tired of being picked on, true, but it also shows that we're ready to contend in the SEC. We're not just a fluke. This is kind of what our program is going to be, establishing ourselves as someone who can be eventually a perennial power. So maybe this is the start of a beautiful future for Vanderbilt football.
Right. But do you guys take offense to? And I mean, before we move on, the media has been talking about a new Vanderbilt as far as football goes, because granted, we haven't been the most successful team in the last couple of years, but I mean, do you think is that accurate?
A new Vanderbilt? I mean, yeah, I mean they're 2-0 for the second time since 1989, so I guess in that sense this is the new Vanderbilt. But I mean, in years past, the team was this close to getting over the hump, I mean, it's just like finally everything came together, has been coming together these first 2 games. So I wouldn't say it's a new Vanderbilt so much. I mean, this coaching staff's been around for a long time. And I mean, it's just like they're finally getting their due. So, I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock into that.
I think it's a bit premature to make those kind of assumptions too, to say with a new Vanderbilt that you're playing only about 2 hours with the football on the field.
Exactly.
You have to wait a little while to say, okay, Vanderbilt's finally gotten over that hump, but this is certainly a move in the right direction. And speaking of a move in the right direction, we have a big game next week against Rice. What are your first impressions on that?
Well, I mean, the most important thing, and I think it's great that the players were saying this, is that they're not going to just walk into that game thinking they're on top of the world. They're going into every game with that same, we need this win mentality. Rice is no pushover. I mean, they're definitely a team that they got that great quarterback, they got very solid offense, so it's going to be a battle. I think that Vanderbilt's a stronger team, but they're not going to go into it, second guessing the Owls.
Definitely, and I mean this really comes into this is a very different game than the other ones, because we've seen Vanderbilt go up against 2 pretty strong defenses. At South Carolina, definitely, and you can make a good argument that Miami, Ohio had a pretty good defense too. Rice, I'm not sure if you can say the same thing, but their offense, I think they put up 98 points on the board in the first 2 games of the season. Thriller last week, weekend 2 against Memphis. They won in the last minute with an interception that they brought back to the house for 6. I mean, do you think that's going to take them by surprise? I mean, because they haven't seen an offense like this yet so far.
I don't know if it's necessarily going to take them by surprise as much. I think it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch with the strength versus strength. But also what you have to look at, the key factor in this game is going to be our offense against their defense. They're averaging giving up about 31 points a game. We have our running game going. We have Nixon playing as confident as I've ever seen him play. So I think that's mainly going to decide it. But the strength versus strength thing, if we can win that battle, we should be able to put this one away rather easily.
There's one other intangible that I finally noticed for the first time since I've been here. At that game the other night, I was up in the press box, but that is the best home crowd I've ever seen at a Vanderbilt football game.
I agree with you.
Everyone was really into it, and the players were definitely feeding off the energy. Like, all this time, we always see SEC games, and 2/3 of the stadium is in black and gold. And Thursday night, it was awesome. I mean, black everywhere, and the players really responded to it. I think if we can get that kind of home crowd advantage, I think that Vanderbilt's going to really start putting up some wins at home.
Sounds good. And guys, predictions? What do you think? They're going to take it?
I think they're going to win it. I think that they're very confident right now. They got the right attitude. I mean, everything seems to be clicking right now. So, I mean, I know, after years of futility, it's hard to be super confident, but I think Vanderbilt wins that game. Not running away, but I think they win it.